Let me ask you something real. Have you ever thought you were completely over someone, only to come face to face with them when you least expected it? Not in a movie moment, but in real life, when your heart stumbles and you're not sure if it's fear, anger, or just old wounds flaring up again? Because that's exactly what happened to Juliana. She never thought she'd see her ex-husband again. Not after everything. Not after the heartbreak, the fights, the nights crying alone. But life has a funny way of throwing us right back into the fire we thought we'd already walked through. And when she saw him again, parading around like nothing ever happened, he had no idea. No clue that Juliana wasn't just standing on her own now. She had someone new by her side. Someone powerful. Someone who saw her worth. Can you imagine that moment? Standing there, heart pounding, facing someone who once broke you, while holding a truth so much bigger than they'll ever understand. Stick with me. Because this story, it's not just about revenge or moving on. It's about that moment when you realize you didn't just survive. You've already won. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Now, 2 years later, he was proudly parading his glamorous fiancée, Chloe Whitman, at a high-profile event, completely unaware of the stunning truth about Juliana's new husband, Logan Carter. What Marcus didn't know was that Logan wasn't just a modest entrepreneur. He was a luxury car tycoon, a billionaire with massive influence and wealth, ready to lift Juliana into a life of comfort and prestige she had never dared to envision. Prepare for a story filled with revenge, scandal, and sweet redemption. Rain tapped steadily against the windows of a small cafe on North Halsted Street as Juliana Blake took a slow sip of her cappuccino. It was a surprisingly chilly afternoon for mid-June in Chicago, and the cafe, Luna's Nook, was packed with people seeking shelter from the sudden downpour. Dressed in a simple navy blouse and jeans, Juliana felt an odd blend of calm and lingering unease. Just a year ago, she would have never pictured herself here, at peace, after the emotional wreckage of her divorce. Her thoughts drifted to the day she and Marcus finalized everything. There had been fury, tears, and deep regret. Once upon a time they had been college sweethearts, hopelessly in love, thinking that was all it took. But over time, Marcus's ambition twisted into cold competition, and Juliana's hopes of a true partner fell apart beneath constant judgment. Their arguments about money, lifestyle, their future had grown too loud to ignore. Eventually, those cracks became impossible to mend. A sharp car horn from outside snapped her out of the memory. She glanced at her phone. Logan Carter, the man she had started seeing 2 months earlier, had said he'd meet her after his meeting. They were headed to an art exhibit later, one hosted by her good friend, Amira Yoon, a rising curator in the local art scene. That protective voice inside whispered not to get her hopes too high. But Logan had never once given her a reason to doubt him. He was kind, thoughtful, and for someone of his incredible status, impressively down to earth. His generosity often left her stunned. Just then, the bell above the cafe door jingled. Juliana looked up, expecting Logan. But her heart stopped. Marcus Ellison walked in, shaking out his umbrella. He looked almost the same, tall, composed, still with that ever-present glimmer of arrogance in his gaze as he scanned the cafe. Her stomach clenched. A familiar pang surfaced. She thought about hiding behind her coffee cup, but it was already too late. He had spotted her. "Juliana," he said, approaching her table with cautious curiosity. "Wow, long time no see." Marcus wore a charcoal gray suit that looked like it cost more than a month's rent in downtown Chicago. His hair, once tousled and boyish, was now neatly styled. He looked every inch the polished executive he had always wanted to be. Marcus glanced at the seat across from her. Without asking, he sat down, ignoring the small line of customers still waiting behind him. Typical Marcus. Always had to be the center of attention. "Yes, it's been a while," Juliana replied, trying to steady her voice. Despite her efforts, her hands trembled slightly as she gently set her coffee cup back on its saucer. It felt surreal, seeing him again like this, so suddenly, in such an ordinary moment. She briefly wondered how life had been treating him. For a second, her mind slipped back to those brutal fights, the final blow-ups over finances, emotional support, who gave more, who cared less. She took a deep breath, determined not to let those memories crack her calm. "You look good," Marcus continued. "I heard you moved back into the city. How have you been?" He tried to smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. They weren't the same people who had once shared a life. "I'm doing okay," Juliana replied. "Just taking things a day at a time." "And you?" "Busy as always," he said, casually drumming his fingers on the table. "Had a client meeting nearby." He paused. "Listen, I know things didn't end the best way." Juliana tensed, half expecting a bitter jab or some offhand comment to reopen old wounds. But instead, Marcus cleared his throat and picked up a napkin, wiping at a spot on the table that didn't exist. He was stalling, maybe even feeling a flicker of guilt. She saw it in his restless eyes. "But I do hope you're okay," he finally said. "I am," she replied softly. She wasn't sure if it was fully true or just something she wanted to believe. "Really, I'm okay." That was when the cafe door swung open again, letting in a gust of cool wind and light drizzle. Juliana's heart lifted. Logan walked in, scanning the space, tall, poised, dressed in a tailored navy blazer and matching slacks. He spotted Juliana instantly, and a warm smile lit up his face. Marcus followed her gaze, a flicker of confusion crossing his features. "Juliana," Logan said, walking over with quiet confidence. "Sorry I'm late." "The meeting ran over," Logan said, placing a gentle hand on Juliana's shoulder. He leaned down and gave her a soft kiss on the cheek. Marcus arched an eyebrow. "So this is—" Juliana felt a flash of awkwardness. "Marcus, this is Logan Carter, my husband." "Logan, this is Marcus Ellison, my ex-husband." The shift in wording sent a jolt through the moment. The tension around the table thickened, nearly visible in the air. Logan, ever composed, extended a hand toward Marcus. "Nice to meet you," he said, calm and courteous. "Likewise," Marcus replied stiffly. His tone sounded polite, but his eyes flicked over Logan with subtle calculation, the way a man sizes up another man who's clearly outranked him. "Well, I should get going. I have to pick up Chloe," Marcus added, his voice casual. The name landed like a small jab. Juliana vaguely remembered Chloe, a name Marcus had once mentioned frequently during the final year of their marriage, supposedly just a colleague he admired. Or maybe Juliana had always known better. The mention of her stirred something sharp and bitter just beneath the surface. Marcus was engaged, apparently. Still, Juliana quickly schooled her expression into something neutral. "Nice running into you, Juliana," Marcus said, giving a quick nod toward Logan. "And it was nice meeting you, Mr. Carter. Maybe we'll cross paths again sometime." Logan offered a polite smile. "Perhaps. Take care." With that, Marcus turned and slipped out of the cafe, leaving behind the faint trace of expensive cologne and a cloud of unresolved thoughts. Logan pulled out the chair across from Juliana and sat down, his hand finding hers on the table. "You okay?" he asked gently. Juliana forced a smile. She didn't want the encounter to shake her. "I'm fine," she murmured. "Just surprised, that's all." Logan gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "If he ever bothers you, or if you need space from any of this, just say the word. I can handle it." "No, it's fine," she said quickly. "I'm over him. At least I think I am." She sighed, still feeling the weight of Marcus's presence. "Let's just head to the gallery. Amira's expecting us." Logan nodded and stood, helping Juliana into her coat with the same quiet care he always showed. As they stepped back into the rain-slicked street, Juliana realized Marcus had left her with a storm of emotions swirling beneath the surface. What she didn't know was that this random encounter was only the beginning, the start of a tangled story about to unravel, one that would bring old pain, new truths, and revelations so unexpected, none of them would walk away unchanged. 2 days later, Juliana sat curled in a sunlit corner of her apartment, flipping through old photo albums she had tucked away in a storage box after the divorce. She didn't know exactly why she'd pulled them out now. Maybe seeing Marcus had stirred up something inside her. Nostalgia, grief, anger, or all of it at once. Her phone chimed. It was a message from Amira Yoon. "Did you see the article in the Tribune about Marcus's engagement party? Heard it's going to be insane, like society page level insane. You okay?" Juliana frowned and quickly typed back. "I'm fine. Just a bit surprised. We ran into each other yesterday." Amira replied with a storm of shocked emojis, then added, "He's showing off Chloe like crazy. Word is she's from some high-profile family. Rumor has it the party's going to be over the top. If you need backup, I'm there." Juliana exhaled slowly. So that was it. Marcus, always obsessed with appearances, was making a big show of his engagement. The hurt flickered beneath the surface. despite everything. They had once talked about a small vow renewal ceremony when they hit their 10-year anniversary. Just a quiet event with close friends. That dream had long since evaporated, now replaced by his flashy, self-indulgent announcement. She glanced back down at the photos in her lap and came across one from their college days. Marcus with messy hair and those bright, ambitious eyes, holding her tightly outside their old dorm. The memory of that young couple, the hope they once shared, pinched at her chest. How had it gone so wrong? She set the photo aside, determined not to spiral. Her life had changed since the divorce. She had her own boutique architecture firm now, Blake Studio. Ironically, she had kept the last name because her business had been registered under it before the split. It had grown modestly but steadily, and she was proud of what she had built. And then there was Logan. He had entered her life quietly but completely. They had met at a charity fundraiser Amira had invited her to months ago. He had flown under the radar that night, introduced only as a philanthropic donor involved in various social initiatives. They struck up a conversation about art, architecture, and travel. She had only caught vague hints of his actual status. Some inheritance, partial ownership in a luxury car conglomerate founded by his grandfather. But Logan never bragged or made money a centerpiece. When he asked her out, she hesitated. Was she ready? But there was something about Logan. Something calm, trustworthy, grounded. Since then, they'd been quietly growing a relationship, one that eventually led them to marry in a small, private ceremony just weeks ago. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Logan. Early dinner tonight? Or I can stop by your studio and we'll grab drinks after. Juliana smiled at the screen, a warm sense of peace washing over her. She typed back, "Dinner sounds perfect. I'll be at the studio for a few more hours, but I'm free by 6. See you then." She closed the photo album and tucked it gently back into the box, pushing it to the back of the closet. With it, she hoped, went the last weight of everything Marcus had left behind. Marcus and Chloe's grand engagement party was sure to become tabloid bait. Juliana just had to keep moving forward, reminding herself that the past was over. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that her story with Marcus wasn't fully over. That the ex-husband she thought she'd left behind might somehow come crashing back into her world. And he wouldn't come quietly. The soft chime above the elegant French bistro's door rang as Logan guided Juliana inside, his hand resting gently at the small of her back. Maison Loire was one of the Upper Gold Coast's most exclusive spots, famous for its layered soufflés and impeccable wine pairings. The warm glow of vintage chandeliers and the subtle hum of jazz music wrapped the room in a comforting sophistication. The maitre d' recognized Logan instantly and escorted them to a quiet, private corner table well away from curious eyes. Juliana eased into her seat, taking in the pristine table setting, gleaming silver, pressed white linens, polished glassware. Around them, couples chatted in hushed tones. A few glanced toward Logan, a flicker of curiosity on their faces. Some seemed to recognize him, or at least suspect who he might be. She had grown used to this. Whenever they went out, people watched, whispered. Logan never reacted more than necessary, always composed, always discreet. "I took the liberty of ordering your favorite red," he said, his smile soft and warm. "Thought we could celebrate." Juliana raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Celebrate?" He nodded. "Your new design contract." A slow smile spread across her face. Just that morning, she had signed a major deal with a boutique hotel chain. They had discovered her portfolio online and reached out. The project could push her firm into the next tier of success. "That's so thoughtful," she said. "I still can't believe they picked me." Logan reached across the table and gently clasped her hand. "You deserve every bit of it. Congratulations." A sommelier arrived and poured them each a glass of red. They raised their glasses in a quiet toast, the soft clink of crystal echoing between them. Juliana took a sip. The wine was velvety, rich, warming her as it slid down. They talked easily, sharing details about their day. Logan mentioned an upcoming trip to London for a philanthropic summit he was supporting. Logan didn't go into too much detail about his business. Instead, Juliana spoke animatedly about the concept she was developing for the new hotel project. Halfway through the meal, her delicate Orvin pasta, his seared salmon, Logan set down his fork and cleared his throat. "I've been thinking. he began, glancing briefly at his plate as though rehearsing. "About introducing you to some people in my circle, friends, business partners. I want them to know the incredible woman I married." Juliana paused, her fork midway to her mouth. "You do?" she asked, heart fluttering slightly. They had been seeing each other for a while, but even after marriage, she felt they were still navigating a very private balance. Being invited into his social circle, especially given Logan's position in the luxury auto world, sounded both thrilling and overwhelming. But along with the thrill came a wave of quiet doubt. Juliana had always felt like an outsider in elite circles, where conversation flowed easily between people born into wealth and legacy. She wasn't ashamed of her past, but sometimes the contrast felt stark, like she was a guest in a world where she didn't fully belong. Would they see her as an equal? Or just as the woman Logan married on a whim? Logan nodded, laying his napkin aside. "I don't want to pressure you, but there's a charity fundraiser next week, and I'd love for you to come with me, if that's something you're comfortable with." A rush of emotion swirled through her, nervousness, curiosity, hope. "Of course," she said softly. "I'd be honored." Logan's face lit up. He reached across the table and gently rubbed his thumb over her knuckles. "Thank you. I'm really lucky to have you, Juliana." They lingered over dessert, rich flourless chocolate torte, and drifted into easy conversation about their favorite novels, childhood memories, and dream destinations. Even as she laughed with him, a sliver of hesitation lingered beneath the surface, unspoken and uninvited. She reminded herself not to overthink it, not to let old fears spoil something new. For a while, she allowed herself to float in the moment, in the possibility, in the peace. Marcus's name never came up, and it didn't need to. This evening belonged to her and Logan, a chapter free from regret. When they finally rose to leave, the restaurant was closing. The evening air outside was crisp. "I'll drive you home," Logan said, guiding her toward a sleek black sedan waiting at the curb. She remembered the first time he'd shown up with a driver. She'd insisted on taking a cab to meet him. It had felt too excessive. Over time, though, she had grown more used to it. Even so, she still paid her own way whenever possible. Inside the car, Logan slipped an arm around her shoulders. Juliana leaned into him, eyes fluttering closed as they rode through the city. The hum of the engine and glow of the street lamps lulled her into a soft, dreamlike peace. For the first time in years, she dared to imagine a life unburdened by the heartbreak that once defined her. Morning light streamed through the tall windows of Juliana's studio. She sat at her drafting table, carefully adjusting her sketches for the boutique hotel contract. Pencil lines curved smoothly into arches and angles, slowly capturing Juliana's vision for a warm, modern interior. The desk phone rang, jolting her out of her creative rhythm. "Juliana Blake's studio," she answered, tucking the pencil behind her ear. "It's me," came Amira's excited voice. "You are not going to believe this. I just heard from a contact at the Chicago Herald. Marcus and Chloe are throwing an engagement soiree at the Four Seasons next week. And get this, they're inviting everyone from your old social circle, friends, clients, even mutual acquaintances." Juliana's stomach turned. Why on earth would they invite me? "Well, that's the thing," Amira said. "Word is, Marcus doesn't want you there, but apparently Chloe insisted. Told the Herald she wanted a harmonious future or something like that, or maybe she just wants to show off." Amira paused. "I know you probably don't care, but I thought you should know, just in case an invite lands on your desk." Juliana let out a long breath. She hadn't expected Marcus's engagement to become such a public event, but knowing his hunger for attention and status, she shouldn't be surprised. "Thanks for telling me," she said. "If I get invited, I'll think it through before responding." "Just remember," Amira added, "you don't owe them anything." There was a brief pause, then Amira added playfully, "By the way, how's Logan?" At his name, Juliana smiled instinctively. "He's good. He wants me to meet some of his business contacts at a big charity fundraiser next week." "Wow, same week? Sounds like your calendar's about to get interesting." Juliana chuckled. "I think so." "Well, if you need a +1 for Marcus's circus or a bodyguard, I'm in," Amira teased. They laughed and ended the call. Juliana stared at the phone for a long moment. She could already picture it. Marcus and Chloe's party would be a dazzling spectacle of business elite and socialites. Chloe, she recalled now, came from a wealthy Boston family and was rumored to be a sharp corporate attorney. To Marcus, she was probably the perfect combination of power and pedigree. That afternoon, a courier arrived carrying a large cream-colored envelope with gold embossing. Juliana's pulse quickened. The return address read, Mr. Marcus Ellison and Ms. Chloe Whitman. So the rumor was true. They had really invited her. Inside was a thick, glossy invitation outlining the exclusive soiree at the Four Seasons. Juliana folded it neatly back into the envelope. She hesitated. Should she toss it or keep it? A part of her felt it was all a performance, a power move by Chloe, a way to seem gracious or to quietly rub Juliana's face in their eyes. Later that evening, relaxing at home, Juliana still hadn't decided what to do with the invitation. She'd tell Logan, get his thoughts. Maybe they'd skip it altogether. She had no desire to watch Marcus parade around with Chloe on his arm. Then again, a small voice inside her whispered, maybe it would be cathartic to show up with her husband, someone who truly cherished her, and prove that she wasn't the shattered woman Marcus had walked away from. Juliana picked up her phone and called Logan. He answered on the second ring. Juliana, hey, I was just thinking about you. Well, she said, her voice laced with irony, I just received something interesting. An invitation to Marcus's engagement soiree. Logan paused. How are you feeling about it? Juliana curled up on the couch, hugging a throw pillow. Conflicted. Part of me wants to avoid it completely, but another part of me, I'm curious. Maybe I want closure, or maybe I just want to walk in there and prove that I'm okay. She hesitated, and Chloe specifically invited me. It feels like a trap, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. Logan's voice was calm, reassuring. I'll support whatever you decide. If you want me there with you, say the word. If you'd rather not go, we'll do something else, somewhere far away from all that noise. Her tension eased. His understanding always had that effect. Still, beneath her composed tone, a flicker of old insecurity stirred. What if being there dredged up memories too heavy to carry in front of Logan? What if the sight of Marcus, hands entwined with someone else, beaming that smile he once reserved for her, undermined the fragile peace she had built? I'll think about it, she said. In the meantime, we still have your fundraiser next week. Exactly, he said. Let's focus on that for now. What Juliana didn't know was how quickly the events ahead would spiral, how Marcus, Chloe, and Logan's worlds were set on a path to collide. And when they did, the outcome would be more explosive than anything Juliana could imagine. The following week arrived in a blur of nerves and anticipation. Juliana stood in front of the mirror inside Logan's penthouse, a sleek, modern space with panoramic views of Lake Michigan. She wore an emerald green gown that hugged her frame perfectly. Earlier, Amira had stopped by to help with her hair, styling it into soft, polished waves. Now, her reflection exuded quiet elegance. Even if she didn't feel entirely confident, she looked the part. Logan, adjusting his cufflinks nearby, stepped up beside her. You look breathtaking, he murmured, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. Are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be, Juliana said, managing a faint smile. I still don't know exactly who'll be there. Logan hesitated slightly. It'll be a mix, philanthropists, investors, a few celebrities who support the causes we work with. These things can feel like a lot, so if you want to leave at any point, just say the word. Juliana nodded, but inside, her nerves buzzed louder. She wasn't afraid of public events. Her past life with Marcus had included many, but she had never walked into one feeling so visible, so scrutinized. This time, she wasn't just someone's plus one. She was the woman beside Logan Saunders, someone people would evaluate, even quietly compare. They arrived at the grand ballroom of the Laurelwood Hotel, stepping out into a blur of flashing cameras and streams of well-dressed guests emerging from polished black cars. Juliana kept close to Logan as they passed through the grand entrance into a dazzling hall lit by glittering chandeliers. Waitstaff in black vests carried trays of champagne flutes, weaving through a crowd of Chicago's elite. Almost immediately, a striking woman with auburn hair rushed over. Logan, darling, the woman cooed, air kissing both of his cheeks. So good to see you. And who is this stunning lady? Logan placed a gentle hand on Juliana's back. Monica, meet Juliana Blake, my wife. Juliana, this is Monica Herrera, a board member with the Global Arts Foundation. Monica's eyes sparkled. Absolute pleasure to meet you, my dear. Logan tells me you're an architect. How wonderful. We must talk about the new cultural center we're planning in Lincoln Park. They exchanged polite greetings, and though Juliana smiled warmly, she felt just slightly overwhelmed by Monica's rapid enthusiasm. As the evening continued, more guests filtered over. Conversations followed a familiar rhythm. Pleasant introductions, mild curiosity about Juliana's background, then a quick pivot into philanthropic initiatives or business projects. It didn't take long for Juliana to realize this crowd operated on a different scale. People who built their networks through donations, gala appearances, and strategic alliances cloaked in polite small talk. Midway through the event, she excused herself and wandered toward a display highlighting the foundation's recent accomplishments. Images of mobile health clinics in underserved neighborhoods, grants for young artists, and environmental work along the Great Lakes. She was quietly reading a plaque about a Midwest water conservation effort when a voice behind her broke her concentration. "Juliana Blake? Is that you?" The voice was male, vaguely familiar. She turned and saw David Russell, an old acquaintance of Marcus's, and someone she remembered from the real estate circles Marcus had once tried to break into. David's eyes lit up in recognition. "I almost didn't believe it. How have you been?" Juliana offered a polite smile. "Doing well. Didn't expect to see you here." "I'm a sponsor," he replied, swirling a glass of red wine. "It's always good for business to show support for a good cause, right?" He grinned, though his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Actually, I've got a table next to Marcus Ellison's at the engagement party next week. You planning to attend?" Juliana's posture stiffened slightly. "Still deciding," she said, choosing her words carefully. David chuckled low. "You should come. Marcus hasn't shut up about his fiancée. Something about her family's political connections in D.C. He's definitely riding high right now." A flash of irritation passed through Juliana. "Trust me, I'm not missing anything," she said coolly. "Besides, I'm here with someone else." She glanced around the room, scanning for Logan, anything to end the conversation gracefully. David caught the cue. "Got it? Well, I'll let you go. Take care, Juliana." He ambled off, wine in hand, leaving behind a faint aftertaste of old wounds. Juliana exhaled and leaned gently against the display, steadying herself. Suddenly a warm hand rested gently on her shoulder. She turned to see Logan, concern softening his expression. "Everything okay?" he asked. Juliana mustered a small smile. "Yeah, just someone from my past. Let's get some air." He nodded and guided her out onto a terrace that opened up to sweeping views of the city skyline. The cool evening breeze kissed her cheeks. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself, with Logan's quiet presence just behind her. "Juliana," he said softly, "I know running into pieces of your past can stir up a lot, but I want you to know, I'm here, always." She turned to face him, her eyes glossy with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm okay. It's just, Marcus's engagement party is only days away, and part of me still struggles with how he used to tear me down. I don't want to be that woman who can't move on." Logan reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. "You're not that woman," he said with quiet certainty. "But if going to that party helps bring you closure, then I'll go with you. Every step." A flicker of gratitude sparked in her chest. "Thank you," she murmured, stepping closer to rest her head on his shoulder. High above the city, beneath the amber glow of towering lights, Juliana felt something shift. Something unspoken. This wasn't just about a party. Something deeper was coming. She couldn't name it yet, but a part of her knew. Marcus's opulent celebration would be more than a display of wealth and status. Secrets were beginning to stir, ones that could upend everything she thought she knew about her past and shape the future in ways she never expected. The Four Seasons shimmered with luxury as Juliana stepped out, her hand resting in Logan's. After careful thought, she had decided. Attending Marcus and Chloe's engagement soiree was something she needed to do for herself. To close the door once and for all, Logan, dressed in a sleek black tuxedo, was a steady presence at her side. Juliana wore a midnight blue gown that hugged her form perfectly, the deep color setting off her dark hair in elegant contrast. A rush of confidence surged through her, the kind she wished she'd had years ago. A red carpet lined the entrance, where paparazzi snapped away at the arriving elite, CEOs, politicians, and high society figures, each stepping into the glow of chandeliers and soft classical music drifting from a string quartet inside the ballroom. Towering floral arrangements adorned the foyer. Waitstaff moved gracefully through the crowd, with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Within minutes, Marcus appeared. He was sharp in a tailored black suit, but his confident stride faltered slightly when he caught sight of Juliana and Logan entering hand in hand. Beside him stood Chloe, radiant in a silver, shimmering gown. Her auburn hair was pinned into a flawless updo, and when her gaze landed on Juliana, recognition flickered across her features. "Juliana," Chloe greeted, her smile polished and practiced. She extended a hand. "I'm so glad you could come. Marcus mentioned he ran into you recently." Juliana took the offered hand, noting the enormous diamond on Chloe's finger. She offered a calm, courteous smile in return. "Thank you for the invitation." Marcus cleared his throat awkwardly. "Logan," he said with a stiff nod. "Nice to see you again." Logan nodded in reply, his voice even. "Likewise. Congratulations to you both." A brief silence settled over them before Chloe gently touched Marcus's arm and excused them to greet other guests. Juliana let out a slow breath. "Well, that wasn't terrible," she whispered to Logan, her pulse still elevated. They continued farther into the ballroom, sampling delicate appetizers and exchanging greetings with a few familiar faces. In the far corner, Amira waved her over, standing beside her own date. Juliana joined her, and the two women chatted warmly, Amira occasionally dropping sarcastic remarks about Marcus's corporate glam decor. Still, an undercurrent of tension wound its way through the night. From a distance, Marcus and Chloe drew attention wherever they moved, poised and polished. Chloe, in particular, carried herself with effortless grace, every gesture radiating confidence. Marcus, meanwhile, looked smug, proud as he introduced her to major players in the room. It was a well-orchestrated performance of status, charm, and strategy. Juliana could hardly keep up with the whirl of movement and whispers around her. Midway through the evening, the ballroom grew quiet. Marcus had stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone." Marcus's voice rang out through the microphone. "Chloe and I want to thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate our engagement. We're so excited to share this special moment with all of you." Polite applause echoed through the ballroom. Chloe stepped up beside him, offering a graceful smile. "I couldn't be more grateful to have Marcus by my side," she said, her voice clear and composed. "We look forward to many more milestones together, and it means the world to have our friends and family here to support us tonight. Thank you." Another round of applause followed. Marcus passed the mic off to the band, which immediately began playing a cheerful tune. Guests returned to their conversations as servers made another round with glasses of champagne. Logan leaned in toward Juliana. "You handled that like a queen," he murmured. Juliana let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I think I've gotten all the closure I needed," she whispered back. "Maybe we can sneak out soon." But before they could move, a familiar voice cut through the air, laced with cool disdain. "Leaving already? And here I thought you hadn't even offered your proper congratulations to the happy couple." Juliana turned slowly. It was Marcus's mother, Evelyn Ellison, always draped in pearls and always full of judgment. She had once adored Juliana until the divorce, after which her loyalty had shifted entirely to her son. "Hello, Evelyn," Juliana said, her tone calm and deliberate. Evelyn's eyes scanned Logan sharply. "And who's this gentleman?" Before Juliana could respond, Logan stepped forward, offering a polite smile. "My name is Logan Pierce, ma'am. I'm Juliana's husband." Evelyn narrowed her eyes slightly, her gaze sharp and analytical, as though calculating his net worth at a glance. "You look familiar. Have we met?" "Perhaps at a charity gala," Logan said smoothly, not flinching under her scrutiny. "That must be it," Evelyn replied with a curt sniff. Then she turned her attention back to Juliana. "I suppose it's good you've moved on, though some of us wonder if you'll ever truly understand what Marcus brought into your life." Logan's jaw twitched ever so slightly, but he remained silent, letting Juliana speak for herself. She met Evelyn's gaze steadily. "With all due respect, Evelyn, that's no longer your concern. I wish Marcus and Chloe well." Evelyn's lips tightened. "Well, enjoy the rest of the evening," she said crisply, pivoting and walking away, leaving behind a palpable trail of tension. Logan gently placed a hand on Juliana's back. "You okay?" I'm fine, she murmured. Let's get some air. They slipped outside onto a quiet terrace overlooking the glittering city skyline. The distant music and chatter from inside faded behind them. Juliana finally exhaled, releasing the tight knot in her chest. She always had a way of making me feel small, she muttered. Logan rubbed her shoulder softly. You're anything but small. I'm proud of you for how you handled all of that. A breeze swept through, tugging playfully at Juliana's hair. Juliana turned toward Logan, about to thank him again, when a sudden swell of voices from inside the ballroom broke their moment. They exchanged puzzled glances and stepped back through the glass doors. Marcus was once again at the microphone, Chloe at his side, but this time they both looked rattled. Please, everyone, remain calm, Marcus's voice echoed across the ballroom. Murmurs spread as guests shifted uncomfortably. Juliana noticed a large security guard weaving through the crowd, heading directly toward them. A surge of unease tightened her chest. Excuse me, Mr. Pierce, the guard said, eyes flicking between Logan and Marcus on stage. Could you come with me, please? Juliana's heart sank. She gripped Logan's arm. What's going on? The guard hesitated. We received a report that a guest may be here under false pretenses. A hush spread like wildfire as attention zeroed in on the scene. Marcus spoke again, his voice clipped. Logan Pierce, we need to verify your credentials. We can't allow any party crashers here. Juliana's breath caught. She threw Marcus a furious look. You invited us. Directly or not, we're on the guest list. Chloe leaned toward the mic, her tone urgent. Marcus, please. This isn't necessary. We don't need to make it into a scene. Logan raised his hands calmly. It's all right, he said, turning to the security. I'm happy to clarify, but I would like to know who made the accusation. The ballroom buzzed with whispers, speculation running rampant. Juliana's glare remained fixed on Marcus, her gut twisting with suspicion. Patricia, standing off to the side, looked vaguely satisfied. Then, from the back of the room, an older gentleman stepped forward, his voice clipped and firm. I made the call, said Gerald Whitmore, Chloe's father. He strode confidently toward them, expression tight, posture rigid. I've heard rumors about you, Mr. Pierce. You claim to be a generous businessman, but no one can seem to verify the origins of your fortune. We can't just let anyone stroll into circles like these. Juliana's blood boiled. He's not just anyone. He's... Logan gently squeezed her hand, a silent message to let him handle it. He turned to face Gerald with poise and control. You're right that I don't make a habit of broadcasting my financial portfolio, but I assure you, I have every right to be here, he added, coolly. If it helps, I'm happy to step aside and provide whatever verification you need. The ballroom fell into a tense silence. Marcus looked unsure. Chloe looked absolutely mortified by her father's actions. The security guard hovered nearby, waiting for direction. Logan remained calm, reaching into the inside pocket of his suit jacket. He pulled out a sleek business card and handed it over. You can call this number, he said evenly. My office will confirm my identity. I'm a principal investor in Noventum Systems, among other holdings. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Noventum Systems was a heavyweight in the tech world, widely known for cutting-edge innovations and billion-dollar acquisitions. Gerald Whitmore, face drawn, snatched the card from the guard to read it for himself. Marcus's expression shifted from skepticism to confusion, and then something that resembled jealousy. Chloe's father inhaled sharply, clearly realizing the weight of his mistake. The guard stepped away, speaking quietly into his earpiece. After a moment, he returned with a nod. It's confirmed, sir. My sincerest apologies, Mr. Pierce. He stepped back respectfully, allowing Logan full clearance. A strained silence lingered across the ballroom. Logan turned to Marcus and Chloe, his voice even and controlled. Congratulations again on your engagement. I think we'll take our leave. Without waiting for a response, he placed a protective hand on Juliana's back and guided her toward the exit. Amira followed close behind, hissing frustrated expletives under her breath over the entire ordeal. In the hotel lobby, Juliana's emotions finally bubbled over. I can't believe they tried to treat you like some fraud, she muttered, tears of fury stinging her eyes. Logan's expression softened. I've handled worse, he said gently. Let's just go home. As they stepped out into the crisp night, a quiet resolve hardened inside Juliana. Marcus and Chloe hadn't just tried to humiliate her. They had tried to tear down the man who stood by her. The gloves were off now. The next time they crossed paths, it wouldn't end in silence. By morning, social media was ablaze. News of the chaotic confrontation at the Laurelwood spread fast. Headlines buzzed across society blogs and gossip columns. Billionaire mistaken for crasher at engagement gala. Fiancée's father sparks scene at high society affair. Juliana woke to a flood of texts from Amira, who was both outraged and gleefully entertained by the scandal's online fallout. Even Marcus had tried calling late the night before. Juliana let it go to voicemail. She had no interest in hearing him out, but curiosity got the better of her. She pressed play. His voice sounded tense, almost panicked. "Juliana, hey. Look, I'm sorry about last night. I had no idea Chloe's father would react like that. Maybe we can talk sometime soon. Clear the air. Let me know." Juliana stared at her phone for a second before deleting Marcus's voicemail without hesitation. A mix of annoyance and quiet satisfaction settled over her. There was no need for closure, not after what had happened. What mattered now was that Logan's identity was no longer a mystery. He wasn't just the quiet man beside her anymore. He was a powerful figure whose name now commanded weight in the most exclusive circles. And true to form, Logan handled it all with unshakable calm. That morning, he invited Juliana over to his penthouse for breakfast. As sunlight filtered through the massive windows, they sat at a small bistro table with croissants, fruit, and fresh coffee. With a wry smile, Logan recounted the entire ordeal. "I guess the Whitmores have convinced themselves I'm some kind of imposter, crashing their world with charm and zero credentials." Juliana shook her head, frowning over the rim of her coffee cup. "It's ridiculous. You've done so much meaningful work, especially through the foundation. You shouldn't have to keep proving yourself." He shrugged lightly. "Money complicates things. People either want a piece of it or assume I'm hiding some secret motive. That's why I don't bring it up unless I have to." He reached across the table, brushing his thumb along the back of her hand. "I just don't want you dragged into any of this." Juliana laced her fingers with his. "I'm proud of who you are, Logan. Anyone who has a problem with that, well, that's their issue." His expression softened. He leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. Just then, his phone buzzed. He checked it, eyebrows knitting. "Everything okay?" she asked. "One of the companies I advise, it's about a sudden acquisition deal. I may have to fly out to San Francisco tomorrow." Juliana set her coffee down, concern flickering in her eyes. "For how long?" "A few days, maybe a week. Hard to say yet," he said, sighing. "I hate leaving right after everything." She smiled, reassuringly. "Go. Handle what you need to. I'll be fine." They spent the rest of the day walking through the park and wandering an art gallery tucked away on a quiet street, choosing peace over headlines. And through every shared glance and touch, Juliana felt something real anchoring her. A certainty that whatever storms came next, they'd face them together. Yet beneath her composed exterior, Juliana couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus wouldn't let the recent debacle go quietly. He thrived on control, hated being upstaged. Now that Logan's status was no longer a mystery, she was certain Marcus would feel threatened. And when Marcus felt threatened, trouble usually followed. Her instincts were proven right later that afternoon. Just as she was preparing to leave her office, her phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Juliana, it's Chloe." The voice trembled, tinged with forced calm. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you." "About Marcus." Juliana's pulse quickened. "Chloe, of all people?" Part of her expected some backhanded apology, or maybe even an accusation that she and Logan had upstaged their event. But the tone in Chloe's voice was anything but accusatory. It sounded almost desperate. Curiosity edged out caution. They agreed to meet the following day at a quiet tea room uptown. After ending the call, Juliana sat in silence, a strange unease twisting in her chest. Chloe hadn't sounded like the perfectly polished woman from the gala. Something was definitely wrong. The next afternoon, the skies hung low and gray as Juliana slipped into a corner booth at Seraphine's tea room. The space was warm and intimate, its shelves lined with tins of loose-leaf tea and calming decor. Chloe arrived shortly after, wrapped in a black trench coat, her cream blouse crisp but her face pale. Her shoulders were stiff, her movements tense. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly, sliding into the seat across from Juliana. Her hands trembled as she peeled off her coat. Juliana studied her carefully. Gone was the confident woman from the party. Her eyes looked shadowed, her composure fragile. "No problem," Juliana replied. "What's going on?" A server arrived and Chloe ordered chamomile. Juliana chose Earl Grey. Silence lingered until the server departed. Chloe took a breath and began. "This might sound odd, but I don't have anyone else I can really talk to about Marcus." She hesitated. "He never talks about you. But I looked into things. I know how your marriage ended. It wasn't pretty." Juliana's stomach tightened. "What exactly are you asking?" Chloe's hands fidgeted in her lap. "Is he always like this? Controlling, I mean. After what happened with Logan, he wasn't upset about the embarrassment. He was furious that someone else had the spotlight. We argued about it. Badly." Juliana looked at her, weighing her response. There was no point in sugarcoating it. "Marcus has always needed to win," she said slowly. "At first in college, that ambition was inspiring, but it twisted into something toxic. Everything became a contest, and if I didn't meet his impossible expectations, he'd tear me down." She paused. "He never saw me as his partner, only as someone he had to outshine." Chloe's eyes filled with tears. "I'm beginning to see that too. After last night, he stormed around the condo, shouting that he'd be damned if he let some nobody show him up," Chloe said, her voice low, almost brittle. "I pointed out Logan clearly isn't a nobody, and Marcus completely lost it." She paused, eyes downcast, fingers nervously twisting the edge of her napkin. "I have money, connections, but Marcus wants more than that. He wants someone who can help him climb higher." Juliana felt a tight pull in her chest. She knew that tone, that realization. She remembered how convincing Marcus could be, how easily one could get swept up in his confidence, his dreams. "So why reach out to me?" Juliana asked gently. Chloe hesitated, casting a wary glance around the tea shop as if afraid someone might be listening. "Because I'm not sure I can go through with this wedding, and I need to know if Marcus has ever done anything questionable, financially or otherwise. My father's pushing for the marriage, but I'm scared." Juliana's thoughts flashed back to the early days of their marriage, when Marcus had proposed tapping into her savings for a high-risk project. When she declined, he'd accused her of being short-sighted, unambitious. But had he ever done anything illegal? "Not to my knowledge," she admitted quietly. "He's not the type to break the law directly, but he manipulates every situation to serve himself, usually at the expense of others." Chloe exhaled shakily, the fear in her eyes now clearer. "He's pressuring me to sign a prenup, one that heavily benefits him, something about future earnings tied to my family's investments." Juliana's brows rose sharply. "That's a major red flag." "I know," Chloe whispered, voice catching. "He insists I sign it before we even set the wedding date. My dad thinks it's just smart business. But after last night, hearing how he spoke about Logan, I realized I don't know who I'm engaged to." Sympathy bloomed in Juliana's chest. Despite everything, it was clear Chloe wasn't her enemy. She was caught in a storm Juliana had weathered once before. "You're right to feel uneasy," Juliana said softly. "And listen, if you ever need space or someone to talk to, call me. You're not alone in this. Marcus is my past." Chloe bowed her head, wiping a stray tear. "Thank you. I appreciate that." Their tea arrived, and the conversation fell into a quiet lull, both women stirring their cups in silence. After a few minutes, Chloe looked up again. "I'm going to talk to Marcus. I'll tell him I want to postpone the wedding until I feel confident again. I don't know how he'll react." Juliana thought of Marcus's temper, his relentless need to control. "Just be careful," she said. "Marcus doesn't take rejection well. If he feels cornered, he can lash out. Keep people close, people you trust." Chloe nodded slowly, tears shining again. "I will. And Juliana, I'm really sorry about what my father said to Logan. He assumes everyone's after our money, but that doesn't excuse how he behaved." Juliana smiled softly. Apology accepted. They parted ways outside the tea shop, clouds gathering ominously overhead. As Chloe walked off, shoulders curled inward against the wind, Juliana remained for a moment, absorbing the swirl of emotions inside her. Pity for Chloe, disgust for Marcus, and a small, undeniable sense of relief that she had escaped that version of life. But deep down, she knew something had been set in motion. Marcus, if cornered, could be dangerous. Chloe challenging him might provoke the part of Marcus Juliana knew all too well. The part that never forgot, never forgave, and always retaliated when his pride was bruised. A storm was coming, and it wouldn't just shake Marcus, it could unravel everything. The next morning, Juliana was jolted awake by a stream of urgent texts from Jessica. Blinking against the light, she reached for the remote and turned on the television. A breaking news banner flashed across the screen. Marcus Whitman under investigation for corporate fraud. Just days after his ostentatious engagement gala, Marcus had become the focus of a high-profile financial probe. Allegations suggested he'd manipulated financial records during a recent merger, using Chloe's family connections to push through illicit deals. Juliana's mind reeled. Shock, vindication, and a bittersweet ache tangled in her chest. Jessica's name lit up her phone. When she answered, her friend's voice was breathless with disbelief. Chloe's father pulled everything, cut him off completely. And get this, Chloe turned over evidence. Juliana sat in stunned silence as the full weight of what had happened sunk in. Marcus was facing federal charges, assets frozen, investors fleeing, and he was alone. Her phone buzzed again. This time the number was unfamiliar. She hesitated, then answered. Juliana, Marcus's voice rasped through the line, strained, frantic. I'm out of options. They froze everything. Chloe's gone. I need your help. The desperation bled through every syllable. She could picture him pacing, unraveling, his world collapsing around him. Marcus, she said coldly, I'm not your wife anymore. Your mess isn't mine to clean up. His breath hitched. Everyone thinks they're so righteous, these high society types, they just want to win. I played their game and now they're burning me. Even you've turned your back. His voice hardened. You think Logan and his billions will always be around to save you? Just wait. They all fall eventually. Juliana felt her pulse rise, but she kept her tone composed. My life is no longer tied to yours. Don't call me again. He hung up. She stared at the screen for a moment, then slowly lowered the phone. A weight she hadn't realized she was still carrying seemed to slide from her shoulders. Marcus's downfall wasn't her victory, but it was her closure. And finally, she could move forward, unburdened. He was merely a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition, and she was done carrying the burden of his mistakes. 2 days later, Juliana's boyfriend, Logan Bennett, returned from his business trip in San Francisco. The second he stepped off the elevator into his penthouse, relief flooded her. She dropped her handbag and rushed into his arms. He pulled her close, brushing his hand through her hair and whispering how much he'd missed her before they made their way to the sofa. Logan, she began softly, while you were gone, Marcus's entire world collapsed. He's under investigation. Chloe called off the engagement. He's basically begging me for help. Logan's brow furrowed. He contacted you directly? Juliana nodded. He wants money for a better lawyer. I said no. It felt cold, but I can't let him drag me into his mess again. Logan exhaled, visibly relieved. I'm proud of you for setting that boundary. And if anything ever feels off, I'll protect you, no matter what. They spent the next few hours catching up, discussing the legal chaos surrounding Marcus and the media storm that followed. Even gossip blogs took notice, drawing contrast between Logan's quiet power and Marcus's public disgrace. Juliana hated the attention, but Logan simply smiled and reminded her that these stories never lasted long. That evening, they attended a charity art auction supporting emerging local artists. As they entered the gallery, photographers buzzed around Logan, now widely known as one of the city's leading philanthropic investors. Juliana stiffened momentarily under the flashes, but he leaned close and whispered, Relax, we're here for a good cause. Comforted by his presence, she wandered through the exhibit, eventually stopping in front of a vivid, modern painting that seemed to radiate emotion. She mentioned how much she loved it. Later that night, Logan quietly outbid every other guest, then gifted her the piece with a playful smile. After the auction, they hosted a cozy get-together with close friends at Logan's penthouse. The occasion? Celebrating Juliana's new boutique hotel design contract. And now, the stunning artwork that would be featured in her upcoming portfolio. Jessica arrived with a bottle of wine and a wave of enthusiasm, diving straight into the latest scandal updates. Marcus's frozen assets, crumbling partnerships, and furious ex-clients. Juliana listened with quiet reflection. Part of her felt pity, but a stronger part knew she'd made the right call by walking away from him years ago. That night, Once the last guest had gone, she and Logan curled up on the couch. The living room glowed softly, lit by city lights streaming through tall windows. The newly hung painting shimmered on the wall, a bold reminder of how far she'd come. Glass of wine in hand, Juliana stared out at the skyline, a deep and quiet peace washing over her. Gone were the days when Marcus's voice controlled her narrative, when his ambition crushed her spirit, and when she questioned her worth based on his mood swings. She was no longer his shadow, she was her own light. She turned to Logan, who was watching her with quiet tenderness. "I never thought I'd end up here," she admitted, her voice catching in her throat. "A year ago I was still broken from the divorce. Now, everything feels possible." Logan took her hand and kissed her knuckles gently. "You deserve a partner who sees your brilliance," he said, "not someone who tears you down to boost his own ego." A small wry smile tugged at his lips. "As for the rest, my business, my name, my influence, I want you to know something. I admire your independence. I'm here to support you, but you've already proven you can stand on your own." His words filled Juliana with warmth, pushing out every lingering shadow of doubt. Together they stepped toward the wide glass window. The city lights sparkled beneath them like a sea of endless possibility. Juliana leaned her head against Logan's shoulder, remembering the shattered woman she once was, overshadowed by Marcus's criticism, made to feel small. But not anymore. She had rebuilt herself, rediscovered her voice, reignited her career, and opened her heart to someone who honored her dreams instead of diminishing them. Below, the wild heartbeat of New York carried on, indifferent to one man's collapse or another's rise. But in this moment, this quiet, glowing moment, Juliana knew she was free. Free from Marcus, free from fear, and standing at the threshold of a life that was finally, truly hers. Marcus's fall would remain a headline. Her rise, that was a legacy. So the story is over. Our wonderful friends, are you still here even now? If you're still with us, that means something in this story has stirred something inside you. Maybe a spark of memory, a flicker of emotion, or the echo of your own journey. And now, together, let's sit with that feeling and look at it with honesty, gentleness, and heart. What Juliana's story reminds us is this: healing doesn't always roar. It often arrives like a quiet breath, a gentle hand, a new chance. We've all known betrayal, been blindsided by those we trusted, maybe even doubted our worth because of someone else's choices. But if Juliana teaches us anything, it's this: you don't have to stay broken to prove you were once whole. She walked through heartbreak with grace, faced the past with her head held high, and chose peace over bitterness. And in doing that, she didn't just reclaim her story, she rewrote it entirely. She met someone who saw her value, not in spite of her scars, but because of them. And that's the kind of redemption we all deserve. You don't heal by going back to what broke you. You heal by becoming someone who no longer fits in the places that once hurt. As heterodoxism reminds us, what breaks us is also what sculpts us into something clearer, something braver, something more. So if you're watching this, maybe you're carrying your own chapters of pain. Maybe you're still waiting for that quiet redemption to find you. Let this story be your sign. It's possible. You're allowed to begin again. You are not defined by who left. You're defined by how you rise. If this touched you even a little, we'd be honored if you'd like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You never know who might need to hear this next. Until then, keep going. Keep healing. You are worth every new beginning.